Hey everybody, how's it going? Extreme Trends here. Darwin's theory of evolution still sets tongues waggling. Over the course of history, humans have developed drastically from our days as cavemen, rubbing sticks together to make fire. These days, we are more or less fully functional, but in 100 years' time, what could actually change? Will we become more adapted to our surroundings or suffer for the choices we've made today? Let's look at 10 bizarre ways humans will evolve in 100 years. Number 10. Radiation resistance. Humans and radiation do not mix. We've all seen the mutant fish from The Simpsons with multiple eyes. While that may be a cartoon, it's not far from the truth. Radiation can have a number of negative side effects on the human body, from mutants to serious injuries and even birth defects in fetuses if pregnant women are affected. The Chernobyl disaster in 1986 is one example of how badly radiation can affect us. Not only was the environmental impact huge, but the human impact was also very devastating. Many of the inhabitants of Chernobyl died of cancer-related death brought on by nuclear poisoning, including 15 children. Even when we have an X-ray, the room has to be secured and the doctors have to wear protective glasses. So making humans radiation resistant seems like a logical step. There are also microscopic little creatures called tardigrades that are almost immune to radiation, and scientists believe that a protein found in their DNA could be the key to genetically modify us to resist radiation too. If we ever decide to venture off to new planets, then this would be an extremely handy tool. Number 9. Humans will get taller. Having to stand on a stool to reach the highest shelf isn't ideal, but it might be a thing or two in the past in 100 years. No more worrying about being too short for the girl you like at school or leaving your height off your Tinder profile. Evolution has got you covered. There are a couple of elements to this. Firstly, if we do end up colonizing other planets, then children born on Mars, for example, would be significantly taller. Compared to Earth, Mars has a lot less gravity, meaning the cartilage holding our bones in place would be less compacted, enabling us to reach new heights as our bone structures won't be battling gravity. Secondly, it looks like we are getting taller thanks to the quality of our lives. While you may think that growing taller is a thing of the future, humans have been steadily growing for the last 150 years. In fact, the height of the average person has increased by around 4 inches in that time frame, thanks to numerous reasons, including better nutrition. Number 8. Fish swimming. Climate change is a big issue, with stars like Leonardo DiCaprio frequently talking about the melting ice caps. If the state of the world doesn't change and we don't become more aware, the future of our planet is really uncertain. Just recently, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has controversially pulled out of the Coverage Paris Agreement designed to help combat global warming. With that being said, it's not entirely unrealistic to speculate that humans might evolve to cope underwater, because the planet may well become largely ocean. Developing longer fingers and toes with webbing would be one element of this change, with the possibility of humans having gills to help us breathe underwater. In likelihood, we would also evolve to have a considerably higher level of fat to be more suited to cold water temperatures, just like a fish. While this might sound like something out of the Kevin Costner movie Waterfall, it is definitely a possibility, but it will probably be more than 100 years before this change comes into play. Number 7. Our posture will worsen. If you're like me, your mum was always telling you off for not standing up straight, then this might not come as a shock to you. Having a bad back is extremely common. A big part of this is the development of technology. Instead of working manual jobs in fields or factories, society has changed, and now most of us spend the majority of our working lives behind a desk. It looks like for the most part, society has hung up their hunting hats and have settled down for a job in accounts. Given how we evolved from cavemen who walked like monkeys, it's not a far reach to think we'll end up with naturally curved spines in the future to accommodate modern life. Even when we aren't at work, we spend an enormous amount of time slouching in front of the TV, hunching over our phones, or bent over an Xbox controller. Maybe now everyone will start sitting up straight. Who knows? Number 6. Super fingers. Have you ever stopped to appreciate your thumbs? Just think how lost you would be without them, unable to use any game consoles or handheld device with ease. Modern life would be a joyless nightmare. We wouldn't be able to open bottles of Coke or have awkward handshakes at job interviews. Thankfully, over the course of history, thumbs have become more adapted to our uses as life has progressed. From the orangutan and chimpanzee's thumbs to the ones humans have, the use and flexibility of these digits have increased no end. It only makes sense that in the future our thumbs would become even more useful, perhaps even super, or just as extended as one of our fingers. Sure, it might look odd to have a thumb the size of a finger, but by then it will all be normal. Who knows what the future holds for our hands, but it could certainly hold a lot more with an advanced thumb on the cards. Number 5, smaller brains. I know what you're thinking, having a smaller brain certainly doesn't sound like a plus. If anything, we want bigger brains, don't we? Believe it or not, but in the past 20,000 years, the average brain has decreased in size from 1,500 cubic centimeters to 1,350 cubic centimeters. In that time, man has invented technology and the internet, so having a smaller brain isn't a bad thing. Scientifically, it looks like size doesn't matter, at least not in the way you would think it might. Some scientists even believe that a smaller brain makes us smarter as they become more efficient. In theory, in years to come, as the brain shrinks in size, humans will become a significantly more intelligent race. Have you ever noticed that when you become tired, your thought process starts to slow down? Well, that's because the bigger your brain, the more energy it requires to run. So the smaller the brain, the more output for less energy. Simple science. Number 4, weaker immune systems. In this day and age, we have the luxury of having medicine being widely available in most first world countries. The problem is it's almost too available, meaning that we often reach for tablets to help common small illnesses like a cold. Rather than wait and let our bodies fight off the illness, it's much easier to go to the doctors and get a course of antibiotics. The invention of these life-saving drugs is one of man's greatest achievements, but the overuse of such medicine will have a negative effect moving forward. If you use them too much as a child, your ability to fight off infections and illnesses naturally will diminish significantly, meaning that over time your immune system will become weaker. In science, it's known as the hygiene hypothesis, and it centers around the idea that our immune systems can't develop properly when medicines are overused, as it doesn't allow it the chance to grow. If society continues this way, future generations could get very sick very easily. So if you're a parent or planning on becoming one, maybe hold off calling the doctor and let little Timmy get over his sniffles naturally. Future generations will thank you. Number 3, car crash proof. Car accidents are one of the leading causes of death worldwide, so helping humans evolve to withstand collisions is a pretty nifty idea. But what exactly would humans look like if they were built to cope high impact crashes? Although it's not a natural evolution, artist Patricia Piccinini and Australia's Transport Accident Commission came up with the design of a male that would survive most accidents. The odd creature named Graham has a giant skull with plenty of fluid protecting his brain, a flattened face to stop bones breaking, and several adjustments around the rib area, including multiple new nipples which would further protect him during an accident. All of the excess fluid, odd shaping, and cushions of fat make Graham the prime body type to survive a horrific car crash that would instantly kill today's humans. It might be just fantasy, but the design certainly has more drivers taking care of their speeds, because who wants their great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren looking like that? Number 2, subcultures. If you're a fan of sci-fi films, then subcultures won't be new to you. The division of class is an ongoing issue around the world. The rich and the poor, the athletic and the academic, Marvel and DC. Divisions are everywhere, we are surrounded by them. But because it's so normal, we don't really think about it. It might sound crazy, but more often than not, people are attracted to partners with the same interests as them. As the class gap widens in different areas, this may lead to people only mating with their own social groups, therefore in years to come creating subcultures and even their own species. Creating a full subculture also has the possibility to create different living situations, like towns full of one people or a certain district for one species. For an example of this, check out the Divergent film series. Who knew that fiction could really become reality? It may be closer than you really think. Number 1, monoethnicity. The thought of monoethnicity is a little terrifying, but bear with me. This is in keeping with the subculture theory, but taking it one step beyond. The idea is that eventually a singular ethnicity will dominate the genetic pool, leading to a worldwide population of just that one race. At the moment, society is becoming more diverse, to the point where more and more people are being born with multiple ethnicities. If you meet a person in the streets, it's unlikely that they will be from just one place, but several. Their grandma grandmother might have been born in Peru, their granddad in Italy, and their mother in England. Most of us are a melting pot from all over. While you would think that diversity would lead to more diversity, in the long term it could have the opposite effect and we'll all become exactly the same. Eventually, generations down the line, it's highly possible that we will all become so intermingled that racial barriers will disappear completely. We will all be mono-ethnicity. So that has been the top 10 bizarre ways humans will evolve in 100 years. If you did enjoy the video or found it interesting, then why not go check out one of our other videos by clicking the video on screen now. Before you do that though, as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss a single upload. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Have an x-ray, the room has to be secured and the doctors have to wear protective glasses. So making humans radiation resistant seems like a logical step. There are also microscopic little creatures called tardigrades that are almost immune to radiation, and scientists believe that a protein found in their DNA could be the key to genetically modify us to resist radiation too. If we ever decide to venture off to new planets, then today, let's look at 10 bizarre ways humans will evolve in 100 years. Number 10. Radiation resistance. Humans and radiation do not mix. We've all seen the mutant fish from The Simpsons with multiple eyes. While that may be a cartoon, it's not far from the truth. Radiation can have a number of negative side effects on the human body, from mutants to serious injuries, and even then, this would be an extremely handy tool. Number 9. Humans will get taller. Having to stand on a stool to reach the highest shelf isn't ideal, but it might be a thing or two in the past in 100 years. No more worrying about being too short for the girl you like at school or leaving your height off your Tinder profile. Evolution has got you covered. There are a couple of elements to this. Hey everybody, how's it going? Extreme Trends here. Darwin's theory of evolution still sets tongues waggling. Over the course of history, humans have developed drastically from our days as cavemen, rubbing sticks together to make fire. These days we are more or less fully functional, but in 100 years time, what could actually change? Will we become more adapted to our surroundings or suffer for the choices we've made? Birth defects in fetuses if pregnant women are affected. The Chernobyl disaster in 1986 is one example of how badly radiation can affect us. Not only was the environmental impact huge, but the human impact was also very devastating. Many of the inhabitants of Chernobyl died of cancer-related death brought on by nuclear poisoning, including 15 children. Even when we have